Dear Principal Curmudgeon, I just wanted to say how pleased I am to be teaching in Year 7 at Utopia High this year. As Term 1 is nearly upon us, I've been getting the classroom ready and planning my approach to managing the class. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about my approach to classroom management and how I'll be applying these ideas. So first of all, why do students behave the way they do? Well, every one of us is a complex product of our individual qualities and our environment. So that pretty much guarantees that there's no one single answer to this question. Understanding student behaviour is really about getting to know them individually, what aspects of their lives might be having an impact on their engagement with learning, and I have a couple of ways to get to know them better. So here's our favourite things wall. I'll share some things about myself on this wall, and I'll be asking students to also add things that they're interested in, and they can add to the wall throughout the year. And where possible, I'll try to refer to their interests during my lessons so that they know that I'm actually paying attention. Another method that I have is the learning journal. So this journal documents the students' learning, so it's their document and it's all about their personal learning journey. It'll also be used as a key tool for communicating. So I'll be encouraging them to add their own notes for me to read and respond to. Students collect their journals at the start of every lesson, and they'll come to expect regular feedback from me when they open up their journals. Managing student behaviour. Well, I don't believe that children are meant to be trained or conditioned, so behavioural approaches are definitely not in my repertoire. I agree with the view that behaviour is one aspect of student engagement, and engaged behaviour comes as a consequence of the individual's cognitive and affective engagement. So cognitive engagement is all about the student understanding what is expected of them and feeling confident that they can achieve it. So clarity is really important. I'll be putting up the lesson topic and learning objectives up on the board every class, so students can then enter that into their learning journals at the start of every lesson as well, and everyone knows what we'll be doing and what they're hoping to come away from the lesson knowing. Having a regular class routine can help students to orient themselves during the lesson. So this is especially important for those students who are prone to drifting off. So while the cat's just come on the bed. So while I try to keep the learning activities varied and interesting, there is a predictable pattern to my classes and the students will come to naturally expect it. Okay, so another useful tool is our maths board at the back of the class. So on this board I've placed the three main topics of the Year 7 maths curriculum. So we'll use this board to chart our progress through the curriculum, adding details to it as we progress. So this will be like a visual reminder for them about what they've done so far, where they're up to and where we're going next. So students need to feel that they are confident and competent maths learners and that there is a point to what they're doing. So I really want to show students that all their work is valuable and appreciated. That's why everything they do is documented in their learning journals and will be checked and commented on regularly by me. I'm also urging them to never ever erase their mistakes. Mistakes are very important learning tools, and I'd like to see them analyse their mistakes and investigate what the cause of it was. So I'll also be connecting our maths learning to real life applications, bringing in real world examples such as stories from my own engineering background, videos, and inviting people in to talk about how they use maths in their lives. And I really hope that will also improve their attitude towards maths and its usefulness. Okay, so we'll be having a lot of team-based learning activities in maths, so effective teamwork is going to be really important, and I'm also conscious of the impact that it has on a student's affective engagement, their sense of belonging. So it's going to need a lot of monitoring and guidance. So I'll be explicitly incorporating teamwork into my curriculum, exploring the different roles of team members, communication skills and how to give constructive feedback, because they will spend a lot of time in their groups discussing their solutions and arguing which one is correct. as well as diagnosing each other's mistakes. So this teamwork will be supported and assessed in maths. It's really important that the content and learning activities are not too easy and not too hard for students. In other words, that we're in that zone of proximal development. And sometimes that zone can vary quite widely among students, and I might need to differentiate the content and activities. So as I get to know the students, I'll identify when that's needed and with whom, just by observing the class and their work, and also their journal reflections. So where a student seems to either be feeling understimulated or overwhelmed by the content and pace, I'll work with them to find a solution. So students with emotional or developmental problems will need extra attention. In those cases, I'll be consulting with parents, professionals and colleagues to determine the best way to differentiate for that student. And that may be adjusting the learning environment as well as the content and the processes and the assessment. Teaching assistants are very valuable members of the teaching community, and I've seen that myself in my own experiences and how important it is to communicate with them. So I'll make sure that our class progress is updated on sector so that the teacher's assistant knows what we're doing at the moment. And so I'll also support them to use the students' learning journals as a way of tracking their progress. Low-level disengaged behaviours are by far the most common problem in the classroom. So disengaged behaviours such as daydreaming and not finishing work, while they're not disruptive, they can sometimes escalate to disruptive behaviour if they continue unchecked, because they can be eventually a source of disengagement. So while it's normal for students to have an off day now and then, if the problem persists, it needs to be addressed. So I'll be offering lunchtime tutorials twice a week, and I'm framing them as an opportunity for students to get extra support from me. So if I see a student falling behind in their work, I would invite them to attend one of these. But I'm also encouraging them to identify when they need extra help, and I'm really hoping to remove the stigma of doing extra time in maths, because I think that a positive attitude is really important. So I want these tutes to be seen as something that everyone can benefit from time to time. So for example, the tutorials can be used for team meetings before inter-school maths competitions, and occasionally I might also use the tute time to offer some extension activities that are particularly fun and interesting. So affective engagement is more than just an attitude to learning. It's also about feeling that you belong to the class. You're valued and respected and safe from harm and discomfort. So building relationships with my students is really important for fostering effective engagement, but also the relationships among the students themselves is arguably just as important. So as their teacher, my job is to promote behaviours that are respectful and inclusive, and that pretty much forms the basis of my classroom expectations, which I've put up on the board. These expectations are something that we'll work through together as a class, and if we come up against any trouble meeting these expectations, then we'll work together to find solutions and document them as well, and they'll be up on a permanent display in the classroom. I'll also be encouraging students to express how they're feeling about class dynamics in their journals. So if I see that a student is struggling with their peers, I'll pose specific questions about this in their journals as a little note to prompt them to think about it. I noticed that Utopia High School uses the restorative practice model, and this meshes well with my own beliefs. So this is one of the restorative practice posters that I saw in your hallway and I thought was fantastic. This approach appeals to my engineering side because it focuses on problem solving, and that seems to be at the heart of it. So to me it's really logical that when you've caused harm you need to fix it. And it makes sense that the way you fix it is going to depend on what the person you've harmed feels needs to be done. So since disruptive behaviour can't always be anticipated or prevented, I have a plan for managing that as well. So my approach is based on Roger's intervention framework, starting from tactical ignoring, escalating right through to verbal reminders and even firm instructions where necessary. If the behaviour becomes a persistent problem, I would have a private word with the student and we would use a problem-solving approach to identify the problem, who is affected, and then arrive at a mutual decision on how to move forward to make things better. I believe that there's a significant number of parents who could play a valuable role in supporting their own child's learning. So I'll be emailing a regular newsletter to keep parents up to date with what we're doing. And I'll try and include all subjects, being that I'm their homeroom teacher. I'll also make sure to respond to their emails within 1 to 2 working days wherever possible. As far as maths is concerned, I'd really like to identify how maths is used in the parents' lives, whether that's at home, in the shops, on the farm or in the workplace. So I'll be inviting parents to be a part of that as well. Maybe we can get some into the classroom. So there are some of my ideas and plans for teaching this year. As a new teacher, I realise that these plans will need refinement as I gain experience and reflect on their effectiveness. I see my colleagues as a valuable resource and I hope they will share with me some of their own experiences and handy tips. I'd also love to hear your feedback on what I've planned and your opinion as to how it fits in with the school ethos. So I'll conclude there. I look forward to the start of a terrific new year at Utopia High. See you soon.